Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another very special day here at Progressive Field. How about it for Larry Doby's family? Well, we gathered today in the shadows of two of the greatest names in Indians history, Jim Thome and Bob Feller, just steps away from Heritage Park, where we celebrate our rich tradition and honor excellence in the Indians uniform. And today is a time for both reflection and celebration. Today we once again proudly celebrate the skill and the remarkable spirit and courage of Hall of Fame center fielder Larry Doby. Larry was born in 1923 in Camden, South Carolina, formed his athletic and competitive spirit in Paterson, New Jersey, where he earned 11 letters and was all-state in 3 sports in high school: football, basketball, and baseball. He served this country in World War II as a member of the United States Navy, and he began his journey as a professional ball player with the Newark Eagles of the Negro National League, a team that he would lead to the Negro League World Series Championship in 1946. Indians owner Bill Veeck purchases Larry Doby's contract on July 3rd, 1947, just 81 days after Jackie Robinson integrates Major League Baseball, and Larry, at 23 years old, makes history as the first African American to wear an American League uniform. But not only that, Larry becomes one of Major League's best players. He was an All-Star 7 times. Only one player in Indians history has earned more, and that is Bob Feller, who was an 8-time All-Star. After coaching with the Montreal Expos, the Cleveland Indians, and the Chicago White Sox, Larry replaces former teammate Bob Lemon as manager of the White Sox, becoming the second African-American skipper in Major League Baseball history back in 1978. And we have a number of special guests that are with us this afternoon to help us celebrate this special day. Please welcome Indians owner and chairman Paul Dolan and his wife Karen. Indians president Mark Shapiro. We also have Indians manager Terry Francona, along with general manager Chris Antonetti, members of the coaching staff, and the Indians' 25-man roster. Also, please welcome the mayor of our great city, Frank Jackson. We have 4 men with us today who also enjoyed a very special relationship with Larry. Please welcome a man who was a teammate of Larry's with the Newark Eagles, a gentleman who had a remarkable moment during an All-Star game, making an incredible diving catch in the outfield for the 3rd out. He was then carried off the field on the shoulders of Jackie Robinson and Larry Doby. Please welcome Mr. Ted Toles. Please welcome another teammate of Larry's. He was a rookie during the 1958 season with the Cleveland Indians. He would go on to win 90-plus games during his 9+ seasons with the Tribe. A member of the Indians' top 100 roster. Please welcome Gary Bell. Please welcome this Indians legend both in uniform and as a TV broadcaster with his partner Harry Jones. Say hello to Jim Mudcat Grant. And we will hear from Jim shortly. And please welcome former Indians traveling secretary Bill Robinson. Now let us tell you the story. Bill was known as Les Robinson in those days, Les being short for Leslie. And the relationship between he and Larry was so special that Larry and his wife Helen, who were married 55 years, named their first daughter Leslie after Mr. Robinson. Please welcome back Bill Robinson. And while Leslie could not be with us today, we are so honored to have a number of Larry Doby's family members with us. Please welcome his granddaughter, Nicole Frazier. Daughters Susan Robinson, Christina Farrington, and Kimberly Martin. And his son, Larry Doby Jr., who we will hear from shortly. Larry? And now it is time to hear from a few of our special guests. Please welcome Indians owner Paul Dolan.
Thanks, Tom. It's great to be here and have what feels like the entire Cleveland Indians family here together. I would like to make my special welcome to the Doby family for being here tonight. It's a great day for us, and I hope it's a great day for you. Guys, I'm sorry about this perspective on me here. Unlike the two men who speak next, I did not know Larry Doby, nor am I old enough to have seen him play. I was a child in the 60s and 70s, and I certainly knew my Cleveland Indians, and I knew my baseball history, and I knew what Jackie Robinson meant to baseball and to our country. I knew who Larry Doby was, but he was just one of those old guys that played a long time ago. Names like Feller, Bearden, Boudreau were to me the same as Doby. I might have understood at the time that he was the first African American to play in the American League, but I had consigned that honor to Jackie Robinson, so to me it was somewhat of a footnote to history. History can be cruel that way. It has a way of celebrating the first person to do something significant and then discounting or ignoring all that follow afterwards, as if doing it for the second time was routine. Maybe to illustrate what that means, I'll draw on another experience I had as a child, an experience I shared with all Americans. On a July night like this, 46 years ago, I watched a man descend a ladder and put his feet on the surface of the moon, becoming the first man on the moon. Now, my guess is you all knew exactly who I was talking about. By the time I said first man on the moon, you knew I was talking about Neil Armstrong. In the same way, if I had said the first African American to play baseball, you would have known I was talking about Jackie Robinson. But on that night, moments later, a second man descended that ladder. A man who had the same amount of courage, who encountered the same hardships, incurred the same risk, and accomplished the same things as Armstrong. Now I'm guessing that some of you don't know who I'm talking about. Some of you might have an idea, but aren't sure. And yes, some of you know I'm talking about Buzz Aldrin. But I'll ask you, even if you knew it was Buzz Aldrin, do you remember that moment when his feet first touched the moon? And if you do you remember what he said? History can be tough on the second guy. And so it is that we celebrate Jackie Robinson and what he accomplished for baseball. And we should, because his accomplishments were extraordinarily important to baseball and to our country. It is not an injustice that we celebrate him first. That is the reality of history. But it can't be just our reality. We need to tell the whole story. We need to remember and to promote and to celebrate Larry Doby in the same manner that we celebrate Jackie Robinson. Because while Jackie was integrating the National League, at the same time, Larry Doby was doing the same thing in the American League and enduring the embedded institutional racism of our country in the same manner that Robinson did. He dealt with racist teammates and opposing players and fans in the same way, in the same manner, with the same issues that Jackie Robinson did, and he dealt with it with the same courage, strength, and dignity. There's an iconic photo of Pee Wee Reese and Jackie Robinson together, while the picture of Larry Doby and Steve Gromick is every bit as iconic and as important to this country. Both men were successful in what they did, and because of their success, baseball is a better game, and our country is a giant step closer to racial justice. What Larry Doby accomplished for this franchise is absolutely monumental. I suspect we all know the baseball accomplishments. The 1948 World Series, the 111 wins in 1954, the many All-Star appearances, and ultimately the trip to Cooperstown. But his impact on this franchise goes beyond wins and stats. He integrated us in 1947. That led to Satchel Paige, another iconic figure in our franchise. And 4 years later, in 1951, we had 5 men of color playing for the Cleveland Indians at a time when 10 franchises, 10 out of 16, had not integrated yet. He had established the Cleveland Indians as a progressive franchise in our baseball world. And that culture continued on. In 1975, as I'm sure you all know, we hired Frank Robinson, the first African-American manager in baseball. Another great moment in our franchise history. And by the way, do you know who the second African-American manager in baseball was? Very good. But history's a little cruel there. I'm not sure everybody knows that. Over the years, we have celebrated Larry Doby and what he has meant to this franchise in many different ways. We retired his number. He is in our Hall of Fame. The street out there is known as Larry Doby Way. The RBI kids here who play in the RBI program, it is known as the Larry Doby program. We had a scholarship for minority baseball players at Cleveland State. Playgrounds were built in this community named after Larry Doby. But today, we take a giant leap forward in our recognition and celebration of Larry Doby. Yes, it's a leap that maybe we're a little late, but I hope that the significance of what we do today and going forward makes up for our tardiness. Because when we unveil this statue, we have Larry Doby standing at our new front door, greeting fans to this ballpark for generations. We are saying to the world, here is Larry Doby, a man we are greatly proud of, because not only was he one of the greatest Cleveland Indians of all time, but he was an even greater man, a man who was second to none. And it's time the world got to know him.
Wow, thank you, Paul. This next gentleman, early in his career, was blessed to have been a roommate of Larry's. He also played an integral role and paved the way for men of color to be included on rosters across Major League Baseball. The first African-American 20-game winner in the American League. Please welcome Jim Mudcat Grant.
Hello, everybody. This is a good day, isn't it? Larry Doby was my roommate. He was my first roommate. Quite a dignified man Larry Doby was. Quite a confident man Larry Doby was. Oh, he could get angry a little bit every now and then. But if you were thrown, if pitchers threw at your head as many times as they threw at Larry's head when he first came in, you would be a little angry too. Larry Doby, and I got to tell you this story. Hi Larry, how you doing? I got to tell you this story because it's a good story. When I got to spring training, they told me that I was rooming with Larry Doby. Scared me to death. I said, I am not rooming with Larry Doby. They said, yes, you are. I said, I am not rooming with Larry Doby. So they gave me the key to the room. Now, the team was in spring training already, and they were at the ballpark. But I took the key, I went into the room, and there was Larry Doby's shoes. There were his coat, his hat, and everything looked so perfect. And I couldn't believe it because when I was 12 years old, that was the time that I met Larry Doby. At first, I got beat up every day because I was Larry Doby instead of Jackie Robinson. The kids in the neighborhood loved Jackie, loved Robbie, loved JR. And here I come, and I am Larry Doby, and I had to run like hell, believe me. But I met him when I was about 13 years old because he was barnstorming with the old Negro League players. And then he introduced me to Jackie. A little bit later on, I got to understand how difficult it was to accept the fact that you couldn't eat in restaurants in Tucson, Arizona. In Tucson, Arizona, when Larry first went to Tucson for spring training, he had to read in the newspaper every morning as to what restaurant that he could eat at. When I first got to the major league and was with Larry's roommate, we couldn't stay at the Mudcat Hotel. We had to stay in other places. But yet, he never wavered in terms of how well he was going to play, how well he was going to do, how much he was going to accept. But he did. And he became an all-star. And he became a Hall of Famer. When they gave me the key to Larry Doby's room, and Larry finally came to the room, I heard the door open. My heart jumped out of my mouth. And Larry walked in. He said, oh, hello, young man. Say, you must be Mudcat Grant. I said, yes, sir, Mr. Doby. He says, which bed would you like? This one or that one? This one? I said, yes, sir, Mr. Doby. He said, do you like television? You want to turn? I said, yes, sir, Mr. Doby. He said, now, wait a minute. We got to stop this, yes, sir, Mr. Doby. I said, yes, sir, Mr. Doby. But dignified he was, and a friend he was, and I want the family to know that you are my family too. You know that because I've been knowing y'all for a long time. So thank y'all very much. I appreciate it.
Is there anybody better than Mudcat? Thank you, Jim. And now representing his family, it is my great honor to introduce Larry Doby Jr. Larry.
First of all, it's always good to be in Cleveland, guys. This is like a second home for my mother and father. And on behalf of my family, we'd like to thank you for this honor. It's a humbling experience that this statue is going to sit here for a long, long, long time. And so it's something that I don't think any of us ever thought would happen. And now that the day is here, it's kind of daunting. But I obviously like to thank the Indians organization and Mr. Dolan for seeing fit to erect this statue, and we are extremely proud and humbled by this showing that you guys have done for us. I'd like to thank the present-day skipper, Mr. Francona, and his troops for coming out here today and supporting us. And I know if my father was here, he'd be overjoyed because his peers would be here, and to see fellow players would make him really happy. You know, back in 1947, Mr. Veck had an idea and was able to sign my dad and came to Cleveland, and a lot of people helped him become successful. There's not a lot of things in life that people do by themselves, and he had a lot of help. My mom was his #1 supporter. Mr. Veck was a very good and strong supporter, and there were some teammates that didn't see color when they saw him. That's Joe Gordon and Bob Lemon and Jim Hegan. They kind of took him under his wing. There's guys that wouldn't play catch with him when he first walked out on the field, but those guys made sure he had somebody to warm up with every day. And later on, at the end of his career, he played with these two crazy guys. Gary Bell from San Antonio, Texas, and Jim Mudcat Grant from La Coochie, Florida. And those were names that I heard growing up in my house. And my father didn't say much, and I wanted to get him to tell stories, and he wouldn't say much, but the names that he brought up were the good guys. And I heard those two names since I was a little kid, so I'm thanking them for being here also. In closing, guys, I'd just like to say that this honor is not only our family's, but it's also Cleveland's honor, because he couldn't have done this without their support. Mr. Dolan is 100% correct. Everybody remembers #1. But a footnote for you, Buzz Aldrin is from our hometown in New Jersey. I guess, you know, growing up, I wanted to hear all the stories and tell me about the home runs and the this and the that, and he didn't really talk about it. As he got a little bit older, his lips got a little bit looser. But one thing that he said, which I found hard to believe, but since I know he didn't talk much about it, and when he said it, I had to believe it, he said he never got booed in Cleveland, which meant to him that he belonged to you guys, and he was out there trying to do his best, whether he struck out 4 times or hit a couple of home runs. You guys didn't boo him, and he always remembered that. So thank you to the Dolan family, thank you to the Indians, and especially thank you to the city of Cleveland.
Thank you, Larry. How about one more round of applause for the Doby family? All right, the time is now to unveil the statue, and before we get in position to do so, please welcome the artist who created the Larry Doby statue, the same man who did Jim's statue, Cleveland's very own David Deming. David? Well, I think we need to start the countdown with the Hall of Famers numbers. So let's start from 14 and count down. 14. Congratulations, folks. You deserve it. What an honor. Thanks, folks. Have a great time tonight, and enjoy coming and seeing these statues for many years to come.
Really a great ceremony today, just outside the ballpark.